I recently had a couple of conversations with a guy that is on this path, on the search, is really looking to change his life. And he's got a lot of things going on. He's a bit younger and is at a point in life where the family, the work, there's a lot of things that are there. And the question came, how do you stay focused on this path when you've got a lot of things you're working on and trying to change, and you can sit and think about that and you know what to do? Then you engage with life, and the next thing you know, you're off track. You're just back into world going, my gosh, what happened? And that is a difficult thing. And we talked quite a bit, and I want to share what we kind of came up with. And I know that there's much more to it than this, but this is just from personal experience and kind of what we have to face today. My name is Dan Paulson, and welcome to my channel. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that if you've been following my work, you know that I have this kind of this obsessive idea that in order to understand their material, that we don't grab the material from antiquity, all of the spiritual teachings, the religious teachings, the mythologies, and bring them into our world and read them plain language. There's something else going on. We need to put ourselves in their place. And there's a reason for that. There's a point where, if you're familiar with Jesus' teachings, and there's one in the Gospel of Thomas there's ones elsewhere as well, but it talks about fasting as to the world. Now, we know in the spiritual realm, that does not mean not consuming food. What does Jesus say? If you do not fast as to the world, you will not find the kingdom. Okay, we know that doesn't mean stop eating and you'll find the kingdom. Stop eating, you'll die and you'll go to heaven. No, that's a little too literal. Spiritually, consuming means taking things in, learning, absorbing, thinking, not having a quiet mind, being very mentally active. That is what prevents us from finding the inner peace. Fasting as to the world means getting away from all of the things that keep you stuck there. So, how do we do that? I want to start by saying I will explain things very much in detail, and not everybody likes that. Some people want you to cut to the chase. Get it done in 5 minutes, buddy. Move along. I think that it doesn't work that way. The reason is because thousands of years ago, they didn't do that. They had time on their hands. They didn't read. They didn't write. They had a handful of stories. This is what they spent time with. They didn't give it 20 minutes and say, there, I'm good to go. They learned to eat, live, and breathe the material. But it had to be decoded in a certain way. The reason I do that is because we have issues inside of us that we find difficult to face sometimes. And when we ignore them and we leave them there and we put them in place and we bury them and we try to stack things on top of them, they get worse and worse and worse. Or at the very least, they stay there festering and they can emerge at any point in time. The way to make it cease is to stop ignoring it, to face it, to look at it, to understand where it comes from, how it's motivated, what it makes you experience. And the more you do that, the more you look at it and go, that thing is not a monster at all. I can let it go. Or as we interpret the teachings from antiquity in our psyche, what we learn is that the entire idea of illuminating, of bringing it into the light, of taking things from the darkness and into the light is this very thing. All of those things that we want to hide, we have to surface them. We have to look at them. If we don't deal with them, they're not going to go away. It's very important to understand the mechanics of what's going on in the mind in order to realize why I need to do something. I, for example, in life, at some point knew that I was supposed to forgive who hurt me in the past in order to have a better life, but that did not make any sense at all to me. I didn't do anything. They did. It was not until I got to a point that I realized I was holding something inside of my mind that was very much turmoil. And that as long as I was holding that up here, regardless of my past and that having been left behind, it wasn't left behind. It was still up here and it was still causing me issues. What I had to do was resolve that because it was up here. This is why you analyze things. If somebody says just forgive and you'll be better, not a lot of people are going to do that. If you told people forgive, because what it does is it changes the state of your brain, which changes the way you feel, which changes the way you flow through life, so it helps you out. Suddenly people can go, okay, I get that. Thank you for explaining that to me. That's why I explain things. It's important to know why we're doing something, at least for me. Some people can do it on faith. I can't. I had to see a reason. Okay, I'm going to set this up. This is how I play it out in my own head. I figure if I was alive 2,000, 3,000 years ago, I would probably be a shepherd, or maybe somebody who was a farmer or something like that. I wouldn't be in the city. I'm an introvert, and I would want to have something that gets me out away from things. So I'm that little shepherd kid I see in my head that's never been to school. There are no schools. I don't read, I don't write, nor do most people. We rely on members of our community, the clergy of the day, the Pharisees, the scribes, to teach us what there is in writing. We just have stories that we pass word of mouth. And how many stories are there? There's probably a lot more than what we see from antiquity. I'm sure there was much more back then. At any rate, that's what they had to work with. And their lives were simple. What did they do when they got up in the morning? They had no technology. They would go to work. A shepherd kid probably stayed there, maybe for a week out there, just sleep on the ground, get up and make sure everything's okay. I'm not really sure how all that goes, but they wouldn't be getting up at the alarm clock, wondering about traffic, contracts, things that have to happen, relationships, food for dinner, what different people are doing, what's happening somewhere else in the world, what I saw in the news last night, what I see. None of that is coming to them. I'm not suggesting they had nothing to do. They had things to do, and they had things that they were worried about. How do I know that? Because Jesus told them, if you do not fast as to the world, you will not reach the kingdom. So here we have teachings from thousands of years ago that are telling people that we think probably have a simpler life because they don't have as much media. They're not getting inundated with as much stuff. There could be people all around being wiped out and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't be affected by it. We get affected by things and we see things, and it's right now, let's just look at that. That's a data point. We get exposed to a lot that they never were exposed to. They were told to fast. What are we doing? Whew. We got so much stuff coming in. Think about this. When we're born, we are not wired. Then you become a product of who and what your experiences are and how you continue to maintain those experiences in you, as well as your perceptions of life and your personality. There's a few other things in there, but by and large, there are parts of us that are malleable. And those parts of us have to do with our mental perceptions based on our experiences. Good, bad, hurtful, hateful, judgmental, prejudiced. All of those things become a part of who and what we are. And we could be raised somewhere different, and we could become something different. But it's not that we just became wired and now we have to figure that out. We are constantly being wired. Every time we're taking things in, all the time we're observing life, we're managing what is going on around us. We are wiring our brain. Some of it is benign. Some of it is just how to manage through traffic and doing things like that. There's no problems there. However, you're going through traffic. However, if you are going through traffic and there are issues, now there's other things that are mentally coming into play, the road rage, different things like that. Now we're not just managing life anymore. We're starting to experience things with emotion. And that emotion is what is going to continue to wire us. The emotions from joy continue to perpetuate joy. Shame perpetuates shame. All of those things like each other. They attracts like in this case. So what we have going on through life today is we are doing everything that we're doing in the world is we're being wired. So the more things that you're doing as far as having things going on that may be a waste of your time, but you feel obligated and committed to them. They're not doing anything for you. They're taking away time. Listening to media and having things come in. I'm not talking about listening to music or having something like that going on, but I know in my own searches, I was trying to find peace as I was trying to think and get my mind quiet, that even the songs that I used to like, I still like them. The songs that I used to continually listen to because I liked them, they became something that I thought, I got to shut that off because that is creating the memory of the song and the lyrics can evoke thinking and something in me that I don't want that. That's not my thinking. I need to shut all of that stuff off because it's creating memory, something in my head that's preventing me from focusing. Now, I might have something on that is benign, like the sound of wind blowing or ocean waves or something like that, something that doesn't have a story to it. But all the things that have stories, commercials come on, news ads come on, all of that stuff, you're getting pinged by all of it. Then what looks to me like is happening, if you step back and observe it from a distance and cease being yourself, it looks like the outside world and your subconscious are involved in a conversation with your conscious right in between, watching it go back and forth. When in all reality, your conscious, it does play a role. Its perception is what has created things and is what is allowing this to happen. All of this needs to be circumvented, and part of it has to do with shutting off the outside world, disconnecting from it. If you get caught up in it and you feel emotionally caught up into it, that's a problem. Not only does it hurt you, but here's the bigger issue for society. And this is where it gets out there maybe for a few people. We have our five senses, but there's that sixth sense that I'm going to stick with that we have, where we can kind of sense each other. We share emotions. This is that field where people think, wow, if I connect with this, if I worship, if me and my friends get together and worship, we feel an uplifting something. Or if we go to a game and our team is winning, we feel an uplifting something. Or if we are just involved in some sort of a real good conversation, something that's uplifting and we're solving things and feeling so good about it, it's that same feeling. This feeling that we have that we can gain when we're together is bigger than when we're not together. There's also times when we have instinctual gut feelings or things like that that keep us from danger or help us circumvent something. Those are not accidents because there's a feeling with it. There's times where things maybe just be coincidence, but at some point in time, we are functioning in a larger field. What Jung would have called the collective psyche. You know, there's more to it than that. There's something beyond the physical person that's like a bigger field that we all exist within. And depending on where you are in there and how you get caught up in it, you're part of a group, you're part of a field, and you can get swept up in the emotions of that group in a greater way because we're sharing those together. If you buy that, then what you have to realize is that when we are feeling anger and angst and whatever it is we're feeling, we are adding to that field. How do you not feel angry? Oh my gosh. There are people out there just turn a blind eye again and again and again for power. They don't care. It's very tribal. They will care for people, absolutely, as long as it's their tribe. Outside of that, no. Then there's people that go, aren't we one big tribe? We don't agree with each other, us two groups. How do we deal with that stuff? If we add our energy to the collective, then it makes it bigger. Everything in this cosmos moves in waves. It's energy. A wave is what? An ocean wave that moves like this, right? There's a flat line that's called zero reference. When it goes up, that's positive, and then it goes through zero, equal amount down, that's negative, positive, negative. That becomes a sine wave or a wave. That is a wave, and everything moves in wave. And I'm not going to get into an electronics or a science class or anything, but basically the waves can change in two possible ways, and that is in frequency and amplitude. Frequency, the light frequency, for example, frequency is how fast it repeats. You would take something like this and maybe have it happening like this. It's very quickly, it's moving along, but it's happening rapidly up and down. And the amplitude is how big it is, this way or this way. So something can be a slower frequency, which means it's taking a lot longer to happen. Things can happen in nanoseconds, or minutes, or hours, or weeks, or years, or thousands of years, or millions of years. Everything is moving, everything is in motion, everything has a time sequence. As things spread out, it might be slowing down a little bit, but for practical purposes for us, yeah, everything is in a sequence. What we see happening after having said all of that in the world is the frequency of issues is always there. the same issues continue to emerge. It continues to get worse. The amplitude is getting bigger. It's like there's a left and right swinging back and forth, but what happens is we get angrier and angrier, and add to it is that this teeter-totter, which starts out like this going back and forth, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and swings farther every time. The cycles are still happening. The amplitude is getting bigger. We're adding more people and more anger to it and more wiring that is wrong. We're growing to death. And of course, I mean that as humanity, as a species. We're not there yet, but you can just look and go, oh my gosh, this is not getting better. It's getting worse and worse and worse. It's cyclical, and nothing is happening to intervene with it. Nothing's happening to change its course. Guess what's happening? The cycles are happening. The Earth is still going to rotate around the sun once a year. It's still going to rotate 24 hours a day. And humans are still going to kill humans. And we're going to go, well, yeah, we're evolving, aren't we? We are. Survival of the fittest. It's great apes running out of space in the valley and ignoring that. Okay, so having said that, let's step back for a minute and look at all of it. What are we doing? We're trying to emerge from that. We're trying to disconnect and not feel that way. We want to become something different and not be a part of that field. We have to disconnect from that field. Not only because it lets us go and it gives us our capacity to be free, but it also prevents us from getting hooked into the emotion that we share that adds to that teeter-totter getting bigger and bigger. We got to pull back. Everybody needs to get off the damn ride, not add to it. And that probably, you look at it and go, that's probably not going to make a difference. It's probably not going to stop things because everybody has to do this, or at least enough people to offset this crazy back and forth, me against you, you against me, us against them, everybody against everybody. Unless you're in my tribe, then we're friends, until everything is at peace for a while. Then we start fighting amongst ourselves. Humans don't look at themselves and see what's going on. We don't put ourselves in somebody else's place. We don't have the capacity to understand somebody else's feelings and what they want, how they're hurt, how they're acting out, how they're just as pissed as us as we are at them. Yeah, what does that fix? Nobody's got the capacity to back down. Nobody's got the courage or the strength. Strength doesn't come from killing people. It comes from, anyway. Okay, so that's it. You have to disconnect from the world. You have to let that stuff go. Let's look at that a little bit more, though, because we're not going to escape these things. Think about any of the recent shootings, churches, schools, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Think about anything. Think about the pain, the suffering of families, of little children. How do you feel? Compassion. Makes me want to cry. It makes me hurt that this happens over and over again. That's okay. That's okay to add to that field. Think of what that does. It's compassion, it's love, it's feeling like we need to do something to stop hurting people. That's okay to add to the field. Now think about what the problem is. Who causes it? Who's guilty? Who's in the way? Who interferes? Who prevents success? Who prevents growth? Who prevents, and what is the feeling then? How does that emotion feel? That's the one we can't add, because that is one that is very divisive. It's a part of that me against you. That one makes the field stronger. We want to feel that way. We do. But it makes the field stronger. We got to pull back from it. We have to pull our emotions out of it in order to see what is going on. Neither side can recognize what is going on. Only people separated from it and not involved in it can see it. So pull away from that. Now, okay, so turn off media. I worked with a guy one time. This is a funny story. I remember him. There was this guy that was, I won't talk about him very much. Somebody asked him one time about news. What news do you listen to? And what I remember him saying was, "Oh, I watch Real Man's News. I watch Fox News." And you kind of, who has to tell somebody you're a real man for watching news? What does that tell you about the person? It could be MSNBC or any of the other ones as well. CNN. I don't watch any of them. I don't. That was just one there. But I also know that particular individual, his outlook on life came from his media. That is where he learned about everybody in the world. He didn't know what they were really like. He knew what he was told. He got influenced. He's caught up in one side of that teeter-totter, making it bigger and bigger and angrier and angrier. And he's just one of millions on one side or the other. We got to let go of both sides. Everybody. What do we need to do? I don't know. My thing is global. There's too many of us. People are fighting for their space. When you see people wanting to put walls up, what I see is a band of chimpanzees that have overgrown their own valley, and others who want to come in are being kept out. That's what's happening. This is just tribal. The excuses are religions or many other things, but it's really just human tribal behavior. And as long as we don't observe that or recognize that, we're not going to fix it. The real problem isn't religion or those sorts of things. Those become the excuses to help someone feel better about their poor behavior. That's not everybody. Christianity is the broken religion that says all you have to do is worship, you're going to heaven. Yeah, that allows people to just make religion whatever they want to right there. Christianity, trashed. What is Christianity? They love you or hate you. Doesn't matter. All over the place. People are proud of that religion? Wow. I think people are fearful. That's why they hold on to that. You see how I go back and forth between trying to separate from it, and I'm stuck into it too. How do you get out? How do you continue to, talking about it gets you wrapped up in it. There's something else that I realize is that on a day-to-day basis now, once you do that, you're trying to find some way of reminding yourself to stay on course. Stop getting caught up in things. You find yourself throughout the day thinking about something that you've told yourself, God, I got to let that go. I got to quit thinking about it. But it keeps coming back. Things keep returning to you because they're habitually there. They're wired in. They emerge until they're resolved. Or they're there because they're habitual and they need to be replaced with something different that's going to take a while. Your brain gets wired and then it acts out, but it wires not instantly. You don't just load it in. It's like this network that has to grow. So it takes a little bit of time sometimes. You have to give it a little bit of time. But we're trying to disconnect from those things in an emotional way that is hurtfully emotional. Emotionally connected to it in a way that is compassion and loving is okay. Attached to it in a hateful way adds to the problem, and it hurts us. So that's why it becomes important to do that. Okay, I remember a long time ago as I was trying to go through this, and I don't remember where I saw it, but this idea of putting up little messages with Post-it notes and stick them up on the fridge and different places here and there. And I thought, that was a great idea. I did that. It didn't take long though to realize the Post-it notes fall off and the wind blows them, and it's a good idea, but I needed to employ something a little bit different. So this is what I started eventually doing as I'm walking around and hiking. I'm finding these flat little rocks. I'm already up in the mountains though anyway, and I've got this idea of rock cairns. I like the cairns because even though they represent different things, one of the primary purposes of a cairn is to mark a path along the way where the path may not be clear, through rocks and stones and things like that, where there isn't a visible path, but you need to get from one place or find something. People will put rock cairns visibly along the way so you can, it's just a way to stay on course. And I like that analogy. We see it all over the place. It's used all over as that's it, the way, the Tao. This is a representative of how to stay on course. They can also be used as memorials to commemorate the death of people on the mountains and things like that. They're used for that as well. But my purpose is this is to remind me I am on course. I'm on the way. So what I did in my travels is I just gradually collected appropriate stones. And what I started doing was making, see, it's just a rock cairn there, but look, it's even glued together and there's little feet on the bottom of it. Little felt feet I glued on it. Here's another one that's a little bit larger. I've got them kind of symmetrical. And again, I glued them together with epoxy. But what these are just kind of like my own decor around the house. I'll put one on a shelf here. They sit back there or in various places here and there. And what I did is as I put them together, I'm sitting there thinking in my head, I'm creating a talisman. This is not something that has magic to it, but I pretend like it does. And what it's really doing is wiring my brain. I tell it, this is, as I'm doing it, this is my reminder to stay on course. This represents my path inward to letting go of the outer world. This represents staying focused in on me. And as I'm making this, I'm thinking about this. I'm making the next one. I think about it again. And these are up all over the place. They're in the garden. They're all around the house. I got a lot of cairns around. Anyway, they're just these visual reminders that are, it's kind of a little upgrade from a Post-it note. Cheap and easy. That's one way of doing it. These are reminders. So as you're going about your day and you're getting caught up in the thoughts again, you see one and go, oh yeah, let it go. Then you get caught up in it. Then you go into the kitchen and there's one sitting there. Oh yeah, let it go. These are just little bumps, mental bumps to let you know, hey, stay on course. Here's the way. This is the way. Stay here. And that's one way. And that might not be practical for everybody. I live in a place where I have fun little rocks to find. I've been in places where that would have never worked. I didn't have rocks. But there's other things you can do. I'm not a jewelry fan, but there was a time where I did wear a couple of things that my wife had got for me. There was a Z bead that's a Tibetan jewelry kind of a thing. And then this little infinity symbol that I used to wear around my neck. And what I would do is I'm going throughout the day, I would always be kind of cognizant of that. And every time I touch it, or if you're washing your hands in the bathroom and you look up in the mirror to check yourself, you see it there and it's the same thing. It's reminding you, it's something that is set aside to remind you to stay on this course right here. And I did that and I found that to be helpful as well. It still takes time. You have to continue to work at it. We got wired in bad ways sometimes, and it's going to continue to emerge and it's going to take a while. There's not an on-off switch. Early on in life, I want to say that I really wanted to figure out life and figure out what was going on, but I wasn't ready yet. I was in my 20s, early 20s to 30s up in there, and was having the biggest struggles of my life. And there was a point in time where I was in a marriage that was very bad for both of us. It was very destructive. There was alcohol, extramarital pregnancy, abortion, things that were so much in turmoil. I look back at my time in life at that moment, or at that time. It went on for a number of years of confusion, of hurt, of jealousy, of anger, of just not knowing what to do with in life. And I can tell you right now, looking back on it, I would never have gotten anywhere. There was nothing I could have done at that point in time. I imagine people probably did at times come up to me during that time frame while I was angry and tried to give me advice and, tell me what to do. That was probably good advice, but you're not ready to hear it. You would tell people, get lost. You don't know my life. Those things have to be gone through first. You, I think, have to realize you can't dry off while you're standing in the rain. Sometimes you have to get out of one place to get to another place before you can even start, because you are mentally so hurt that you can't heal, and you're still in the environment that is causing the hurt. I'm not giving anybody any advice here. No marital advice. I'm telling you what my life experience was. Everybody has to make their own choices, and some of this is very difficult. I'm very well aware that I'm a male that had the potential in society to succeed at an easier way than many others. I think that there are people out there that are very dependent upon their relationship for their survival. And if the relationship goes bad, they're still dependent upon that for their survival. I never had to face that. So I don't have answers for everybody. This is a very personal thing. You have to look inward and do it. But we got wired. We have to rewire. You don't do it by flipping a switch. It doesn't happen quickly. How long did it take you to get this way? People that want this to be taken care of in 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, go to church. Pray to God. Do whatever works for you. If you need to heal, it's going to take some time. And disconnecting from the world, fasting from the world. Remember, Jesus is telling them 2,000 years ago, you got to let go of your busy lives. What would he say today? What the hell? What have you guys done? None of you paying attention to what I said. You worship me? You don't follow my words? The hell is that? Anyway, well, that was this video. I don't know. I think I think there's probably more to it, and I could have said more. I think that I don't know how everybody should proceed. What I know is that if you're going to proceed, you're going to find a way. And if you're not going to be the one that's going to make it, you're not. There's a point where it just comes down personal. Nobody can hold your hand. Nobody could lead you. You have to grab the material and go, I'm doing this or not. Somebody commented on one of my Gospel of Thomas videos earlier today that they thought that the followers were all wrong. And it's like, followers? That's somebody that doesn't know what's going on. Those are religious people. They're looking for followers, or they are followers. You get to the spiritual quest and turn it inward, you grab knowledge, and it's up to you. There's no followers. There's no leaders. Except for you yourself in your own head. This is a personal trip. People can point away, but you got to walk. You got to take the steps. Nobody does it for you. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. I think, just trying to find ways of staying on focus and knowing that it isn't an instantaneous thing. You can say, I'm going to change my mind, but there's something wired in there that's like, okay, well, I got wired and it took a while to wire me, and I'm not a program. You have to like unwire me or rewire me. That has to happen. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to take work and patience. And a lot of times it's going to take a patient partner. My wife today has been very patient with me. There's times where I'm growing and I'm thinking, I've done this 10 times now, and I keep catching myself. And I tell her, honey, I'm sorry, I keep doing this. I might do something and we have a tiff, and we let it go for a couple of days and nobody says anything. And I'm thinking about it and going, okay, yeah, boy, I am rotten with the... I finally get to the point where I talk to her and say, honey, I'm sorry. Here's what I did. And she launches on me. You this, you that. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? I'm trying to bare my soul here. And I'm not realizing that I've spent 3 days working it through, and she spent 3 days going, I can't believe he did that to me. So here I get my chance to yell at her. And then 3 days later, I need to shut up and let her have her say with me before I go, okay, yeah, you're right. I see. Those kind of things are going to happen between you and a spouse. Or they might just say, I'm tired of it. I don't want to hear it anymore. If we have things that continue over and over again, that's difficult. And often we have a spouse that might have issues of their own that are going to not be at the same place. So you might be willing to work something out while they're not willing to work something out. They might not want to talk it out. That's a part of being in a relationship. Anyway, well, I hope this is helpful. I know it doesn't provide all the answers. It is not easy. It's not instantaneous. It is possible, but it takes work, and it just takes sticking with it and not despairing and going, yeah, okay, I got wired this way. I get it. You got to let yourself off the hook. We get hard on ourselves, and that makes it harder for us. When we hold ourselves in a difficult way, we're wiring ourselves that way. We got to understand that and stop. Well, anyway, hope this was helpful for someone. Love each other. I'll see you in the next video.